We're here with Tim Boetsch. Sorry, I knew your name. I looked at it like I'm going to say it wrong. I know I'm going to say last name. I knew I was going to say last name. Thing. Now, you're living in Pennsylvania and not Philadelphia, but once you live in Pennsylvania, you have that legacy. You have your Bernard Hopkins, your Joe Frazier's. What is it about Pennsylvania people, Philly people, that just makes them so gritty and tough?
It's a hard-working state, obviously I live right in the middle of the state, central Pennsylvania, just north of Harrisburg, but you definitely get credit for the grittiness of Philly and then the hard-working Pittsburgh, Steel City. And it's just hard-working people. I think that's what it comes down to. And if you're willing to work hard for something, of course you're going to get the results you're after, and that is very true in fighting.
Now, you're known for these gritty, tough performances, but you're also known for fights that don't happen. Like you get there, you're training, and it comes, and then Rockhold pulls or Bisping pulls. Is that difficult to deal with?
Yeah, it's more frustrating than anything, but part of being a great fighter is being adaptable, and that is going to be, dealing with opponents that pull out and late minute changes in opponents. Starting out at the lower levels, you have that all the time. Guys will pull out days before the fight and they scramble to find a replacement, and at that point you just need to fight and build your record. So I encountered some of that early on in my career, and I've been competing my whole life, so I'm just used to competition and having to deal with those types of things. But it still happens at the highest level of the sport, obviously, and this time it happened for me, luckily. Jacare didn't get the fight he wanted. They got me to fill in, so what an opportunity for me to fight.
What's that call like? Do you start thinking like, oh, cool, I'm going to make money. I'm going to get to work finally, because there's long gaps that people don't realize. Fighting is long gaps of unemployment and then 15 minutes of employment.
Right. Well, for me, I actually had a vacation planned, so I wasn't planning on fighting at all, so I had to cancel a vacation and do all of those things just to make the fight happen. So when I got the call, as soon as I knew it was Jacare, I knew it was a fight that I needed to take, because it's not an opportunity I'm going to get again at this stage of my career. It really streamlines me to where I want to be. So the decision-making process for me was very fast, and it usually is with my fights. I typically don't hesitate when I'm going to take a fight or when I find out who my opponent is.
Now, highlight reels, you're dominating them just on the way you're tossing people. Is that you're training in that way, or just you're giving it to me, it's Christmas, I'm taking it?
No, that's just my style. It always has been with my wrestling background. I'd often look for the big, from feet to back, 5-point moves in wrestling. So you take a guy down, put him right on his back, and score those back points. And it translates well to the fight game, and fans certainly enjoy seeing somebody fly through the air and smash into the floor or cage. And it does damage, so it's a technique that I really like to use.
And people don't realize in wrestling, that breaks people. In a fight, can you tell, like, once you get that toss, they're on the ground and you can feel like they're not excited, they don't want to be here after that?
Yeah, definitely. If you can pick a person up and throw them down, and they obviously don't want that to happen, it's a show of dominance, and that's what you're trying to do in the fight game, is break your opponent, and that's a big part of it. If you can do that, it certainly helps you're motivating them to lose.
Now, after watching the UFC shows on this, it showed a lot of your son and your family. Would you let him take the path of wrestling, because that's, a sport everyone should get into, and would you let him take MMA, or are you going to, like, I did that, you do this?
I'm going to let my kids do whatever they want. Obviously I want them to wrestle just because it's such a character-building sport. It's, it tests you on so many levels that I want them to experience that, and that's going to only help them in life. But as far as fighting, I hope they can do something else. But should they choose to be fighters, I'm sure they'll be great at it, and I would certainly help them to do whatever they want to reach their goals.
And last question is, you get all these guys who wrestle and they just go in and pound, and then you find later on, like, oh, my back hurts. What can you give advice to up-and-coming wrestlers or fighters? Like, this is what I've learned to avoid that you should as well.
Well, I would say make sure you go hard in your early years when your body still heals faster than it does when you're 36 years old. I don't do that hard training like I used to anymore. I don't think I could. My body would break down. But you need to go through it. It's something you need to train your body to do, and I certainly appreciate that wrestling style and mentality that only wrestlers can develop through that hard style of training. But once you develop it, then it's time to realize when it's time to back off, because you don't want to take too many lumps and smash your body up, as I definitely feel the storm coming. There's some arthritis involved, yeah.
Thank you so much, man.